I'm nearing the end of my summer deep dive into the 2025 NFL draft class. And if you want a good watch list of names, you're at the right place. Today we're talking about safeties. I'm going to give you my top 10, but please stick around to the end because, hey, I'm going to talk about some of the guys that just missed list. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into number 10. Is Andrew Mukuba out of Texas, formerly of Clemson, coming in at 6 foot, 190 pounds. I got a third round grade on him. He's formerly a 4-star recruit out of the 2021 recruiting class. He was actually born in Zimbabwe, which was just a really cool fact. But him, his parents, his siblings, they were all refugees from the Democratic Republic of Congo, because this is something I learned last year. There's 2 Congos. Who would have thought? Immigrated to Austin, Texas, where he would put his name on the map as a star high school football player. Ends up going to Clemson and was an immediate star. He started 13 games, or he's played in all 13 games, made 10 starts. He was a freshman. He made the freshman All-American team. And then in 2022, he kind of started everywhere for Clemson. Like, he had to start at corner. He started a couple of games in the slot, played a few games in the box, deep. Like, he was doing it all. And then 2023 comes around, and he played primarily as a slot player, though I do like his ability to kind of move around. And honestly, he's such a gifted athlete that I kind of want to see him just as like a center fielder, because truly he is a gifted athlete. Like, insane speed, great short area quickness, really good change of direction. And with Jahdae Barron there for Texas in the slot, Mukuba is probably going to play more of a traditional safety role. Maybe they even throw him at corner. I don't know. I haven't looked at Texas's depth chart yet, so we'll find out as the season goes on. But Mukuba's real nice. On top of being a good athlete, he doesn't mind physicality. Like, he will attack the line of scrimmage with reckless abandon. Like, he is pure muscle, but like, he is thin, but he doesn't let that stop him, man. He'll go out. He's willing to make a tackle out in space. And really, the only time he's really missing tackles is because of just his pursuit angles. That's kind of like the big knock on him, that he'll occasionally overrun pursuit angles, and this will have him kind of ride by pass catchers or ball carriers and just not really get a good clean hit on them. He's got that versatility to him, but he's also can be a bit too aggressive. Like, sometimes it just kind of gets the best of him in coverage, whether it's on the whether it's outside moves or just kind of like shoulder fakes, double moves by the pass catchers, or if it's just kind of like buying into the quarterback's eye candy, pump fakes, stuff like that. So there are times where he will just kind of like bite on that. And despite how athletically gifted this cat is, not a lot of splash plays and coverage. Only 3 pass breakups this past year. I think the year prior he had like maybe an interception, and that was about it. So you kind of want to see more of that from him. He is someone who has kind of been a projection for a lot of people the last couple of years just because of how athletically gifted he is. So let's see if that potential, or at least his production, catches up to his potential. And then at number 9 is the guy who I just mentioned, Jahdae Barron, out of Texas, coming in at 5'11", 200 pounds. Got a 3rd round grade on him. He was popularly kind of a 3rd round graded player last year when people thought he would come out, decided to return to Texas, but he was formerly also a 4-star recruit coming out of the 2020 class. And the dude is just a ball of energy, and he's a straight up game changer. Like, last year, this man had a pick 6. He had a fumble returned for a touchdown, and he also returned a blocked punt for a touchdown. His ability to anticipate is just next level. And then he also brings a healthy dose of physicality. Like, he attacks downhill without fear. He can take on blocks. He can fight through them, plays around the line of scrimmage just very well. He's made a lot of plays in the backfield, 24 defensive stops. If you're unaware of what that defensive stop stat is, it's just tackles, plays resulting in zero gain or negative gains. The guy plays really well around the line of scrimmage. Good short area quicks, good route recognition as well. Plays everything underneath exceptionally well. And it feels like he's kind of pigeonholed into that slot position, though I could see Texas maybe playing him. Well, they did. They played him a bit in the box, but so like with Mukuba coming in, they want to rotate those guys in and out of the slot. You could have Barron play a bit more of a like box safety role, and I think that'd be a-okay. But like he's just so good at playing around the line of scrimmage, you don't want him not to be there. So kind of feels like he's pigeonholed in the slot when it comes to the NFL. The tackling technique needs to get a bit better. Dude likes to drop his head and lower when he like lowers the shoulder, attacks the lower body of the ball carrier, and he's just not seeing where he's aiming. On top of that, kind of leaves his feet. If you look at last year's missed tackle rate, 15.7, that is a little bit high. Granted, it's not at that 18%, which is like, oh wow, you're really bad at this. It's more in that average, like, okay, that's a fine enough missed tackle rate. It's not something too much to worry about. But I say he's pigeonholed because as I don't know if he could really cut it as like a split high safety or a center fielder. Well, I know he can't do it as a center field just because of the recovery speed, man. He gets a little grabby in man coverage when he thinks he's lost a guy like at the break of a route where he feels like he's fallen behind. And this is a guy that really wants to make a play in coverage, man. He gets those big eyes, so he'll fall for the occasional double moves or shoulder fakes. So again, get this guy around the line of scrimmage, allow him to play everything underneath. So slot, box roll, that's kind of ideal for Barron. Real quick, I got to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. I absolutely love Underdog Fantasy because I love football, and now that the football season is far and away, it doesn't mean my betting season has to be because they do all kinds of sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, esports even. They got you covered, whether that's weekly best ball or my favorite, higher lower on player props. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code BROSHMO, then they will give you a first time deposit up to $250. That's right. That's right. So if you're gonna go and bet with Underdog Fantasy, use promo code BROSHMO, take advantage of this offer, but please bet responsibly and bet within your means. At number 8, I got Nick Emmanwori out of South Carolina, coming in at 6'3", 227 pounds, and he coming out of high school. He played everywhere defensively, but he was largely recruited as a linebacker and then ends up getting called into play early for South Carolina, like literally in the first game, as they had an injury to RJ Roderick, and he had to step in at safety and was hella good, really good. He made the freshman All-American team this past season. He had 10 starts at safety with another start in the slot. Did miss a game because of a hamstring injury, but it was against Furman, so it was like, okay, hey, let's rest you. We know we're going to win this game. It's kind of a cupcake game, so rest up, get healthy. But the dude is a physical specimen, legit. Like, he is built like a linebacker, and if he decides to make the transition to linebacker, makes complete sense to me because he almost plays like a linebacker. But check this out. During the spring practices, he benched 225 pounds 24 times. He had a 42-inch vert. He had a broad jump of 136 pounds. Those numbers would have been the best, the hippity top among this past safety class, outside of Tyler Owens' insane record-breaking broad jump he did at the combine. So yeah, he's kind of a physical specimen. He's hard hitting. Yeah, you better be at that size. You should. He's got some nasty hits on tape, but he's also a very sure tackler. He uses really good technique, wraps up well with really good length. I think he was measured at about 33-inch arms, and he will drive his feet through contact, through the tackle. 6.8% missed tackle rate last season, so pretty good. On top of that, the ball skills were pretty good with him. He had 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. Like if he gets his head around, he will attack the football like he is the pass catcher. I love that. Like, he's actually pretty darn good in man coverage. It's zone coverage where he really stepped up last season. Like, you started to see a bit of the development, so much so that he wasn't only a captain for the squad, but he was also in charge of getting everyone into place in the back end pre-snap. So this is someone who, like, I'm not saying like, hey, he's great, he's good now in coverage, he's great in zone coverage. Like, no, it's still a work in progress, but he is trending in the right direction. Also, at that size, you're going to look at the change of direction and be like, okay, it's not as fluent as some of the other safety. That's why I think linebacker kind of makes all the sense in the world. I currently got a 3rd round grade on him. I'm very actually just stupid excited to see how he does this season. Low-key, South Carolina has some ballers on that defense. At number 7, I have Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. I'm kind of curious if this is going to be a hot take because I know he's very loved among just the general college football community, but coming out of Notre Dame, 6 foot, 203, and I do think he has the potential to really fly up this list. We already know the ball skills with him. He had 7 interceptions last season. A guy that was just a constant ball hawk, like legit nose for the football, whether the ball is in the air or on the ground. He was around the ball, making plays, got some elite speed. Like, the dude moves really well, moves downhill with a head full of steam and just flies around the field. But he also brings a good physicality to the game, to his game, to the position. Like, he isn't afraid to stick his nose in the action. He comes in like a heat-seeking missile. Like, he will hit ball carriers at full speed, and he's shown a load of versatility. Like, he plays all over the field from the slot to the box to deep. Like, he's just got it done, and he's just got it done for whatever he's asked to do. He's done it, and he's done it exceptionally well. But my hiccups with him is he finds himself out of place for as much like big play potential, which he's got a ton. He gives up some of these big plays, man. He doesn't always take the best angles when pursuing ball carriers. That led to a 20% missed tackle rate, so pretty high. Sometimes he just comes in too hot and he'll slip off of ball carriers. On top of that, in coverage, doesn't always take the best angles to get to that contested catch point. So that is something. It's just kind of, I think, maybe a lack of discipline. Like, he is very much high risk, and when he sees ball, he wants to go get ball. He needs to learn to be more proactive, play more proactive and less reactive. There's just too much aggression. Like, you love the physicality, you love the aggression, but you want to see him reel it back just a little bit. But I get why people love Watts, man. Like, you go back to that USC game, and he single-handedly ruined Caleb Williams' day, and he led a lot of people to doubt Caleb Williams as a first overall pick. He did that single-handedly, but got a 3rd round grade on him. I kind of got him at the early 3rd to like back end of the 2nd round. That's kind of where I'm at with him right now. At number 6, I have Keon Sabb out of Alabama, formerly of Michigan. Coming in at 6'1", 200 pounds, and this one is a bit of a projection on my part. I'm willing to admit it. It is what it is. He didn't become a true starter until, at parts of the season last year for Michigan because of the injury to Ron Moore, who we'll talk about in a later segment. But, man, from the film he's put on, it's hella good. It's hella good. Like, the dude's got a great feel of coverage, man. He's constantly putting himself in good position to make a play on the ball. Displays good route recognition, and he picks up route tendencies. And he was in charge late last season in getting defenders on his side into the right position pre-snap. On top of that, very explosive downhill. He explodes off that plant foot. And once he gets a full head of steam, watch out, because fun fact, he plays with that dog in him. He's got physicality, man. He's got a good blend of size and speed, and comes downhill wanting to make a good big hit. And he, for the most part, has been a pretty good at wrapping up, like 10% missed tackle rate. Pretty darn solid. However, I will say there are things, technically speaking, when it comes to him pursuing tackles or how he goes about his tackles that he should clean up it. We could talk about that right now. I feel like he doesn't take the best pursuit angles sometimes. And again, this is a bit nitpicking because of small sample size, and it's not like he's been on the field a ton, so maybe that'll get better playing like a full year. But he just doesn't always take the best angles to pursue ball carriers. Like he's one of those guys where it's like he gets in the neighborhood, but he doesn't always hit home. And on top of that, when he does hit home, he hits high. Like he can get so much lower when he goes to initiate contact with ball carriers. Like there's a few cases of running backs coming out of the backfield, whether it's on like swing passes or whatnot, of like them just being able to shrug off his hits. And there are some cases of him in the middle of the field going to make a hit on like a tight end. Like there were good cases, good amount of examples in the Washington game, the national championship, where he hit high. It's like, yeah, you know what? Like there are tight ends that'll just like spin off of that and create chunk yards after that. So I would like to see him kind of reel back on that, but he's got a really good nose for the football based on the limited sample size. 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. That's hella good, man. He tracks the ball really well in the air. I do worry about his straight line speed. Like he definitely feels more explosive than fast, if that makes sense. Like his launch speed is fine for the position, but it may limit him when he needs to like recover against actual NFL speed. But again, with the small sample size, this is a bit of a projection on my part. Coming in at number 5, I got Dante Trader Jr. out of Maryland, coming in at 5'11", 196 pounds. I have a second round grade on him, and he was actually a multi-sport athlete. He was like the ranked 5 lacrosse player in the 2021 recruiting class, and he actually played lacrosse at Maryland up until this past offseason, where he was like, all right, my focus is solely on football now. He was there for spring practices, and he is ready to put the work in, and that I'm here for it because I think he's one of the most elite athletes in this class. Like this dude flies around the field. His change of direction, it's just so natural. It looks so effortless for him. He accelerates well. He explodes off his plant foot. He's able to cover a lot of ground just very quickly, and I think he's gonna like jump out of the gym. I think his vert's gonna be among the top in this class. There was a play against Michigan where it felt like he cleared 7 yards just to go make a tackle, diving. It was kind of ridiculous. Kind of wild. But he's also got that ball hawk in him, man. He plays with good eyes and coverage, reads the quarterback effectively, and he's got the speed to jump routes and the athletic ability to take it to the house, man. Over the last 2 years, 8 pass breakups, 4 interceptions. Also, very quick trigger, shows just high football IQ, where he just won't find himself out of position. He gears down pretty quickly, pretty rapidly, and he's willing to put his nose in the action despite being on a bit of the lighter side at 196. I will say there is a blitzing upside here, and I'm hoping Maryland takes advantage of that. Like he lined up quite a bit in the slot. Could like they would put like in the red zone, they would put Braid like in single high, though in the red zone it's kind of condensed, and they would line him up in the slot, but like on the outside of the tackle, and they would just let him go in and get pressure. Like the last 2 years, 7 pressures on only 17 pass rushing snaps. It's kind of a redonkulous number, and I remember seeing this in the Michigan game because that was one of the big games I wanted to go watch, and it was like I'd see him just line up and then go in there, get home, and it was a big reason, like whenever they sent him to go in and get pressure, like he was able to keep JJ McCarthy at bay from running the football. I will say the tackling technique, it needs work on. He's a bit of a dive and drag type of tackler. It's not a sustainable tackling style when you get to the NFL. Last season, 18.3 missed tackle rate, not great. Also, wouldn't mind seeing him put a little bit more muscle on the frame. He is a bit thin, and just he won't hold up. You're going to have concerns about him holding up in the box or holding up in jump ball situations, so when you get into the red zone and whatnot. But I came away from his tape willing to bet on the athleticism. And now we're getting to the real cream of the crop, because at number 4, I got Oklahoma's Billy Bowman Jr. coming in at 5'10", 200 pounds. Got a top 50 grade on him, though I'm sure when it's all said and done, he'll be hovering around that first round grade area. He might be, but this dude is a ball hawk. 6 interceptions last year. 3 of those were pick sixes. He is a game changer, man. He's got uncanny instincts in coverage, and he's got a true nose for the football. 9 interceptions the last 2 years, and this dude is like a legitimate. He's built like a cannonball, and he looks like he is shot out of a cannon, man. He is an explosive player with very scary closing speed. His hips are extremely fluid, and it kind of gives him this sideline to sideline range. Really good short area quick. So a guy that was actually pretty solid in the slot as well, but I kind of like him in that like center fielder role. But I'm not against throwing him in the slot because he also plays with some good physicality. However, it's more so in coverage. Like I remember going back to, and we did this, it was in the watch along. We did Texas, Oklahoma, and he just had a nasty hit on Jahdae Sanders over the middle of the field in the red zone to jar the ball loose. Like he is what, like if he's not going to be able to make a play on the ball, he's going to make sure the pass catcher earns that reception because he is going to layeth the lumber. Now, tackling technique needs some work. He's a guy that likes to make arm tackles. Unfortunately, not gifted with like the best length. Kind of led to a high missed tackle rate over the course of his career, 25.8%. That's hella high. It's hella high. I'm willing to give that up though with just how good his ball skills are and how explosive he is. The run defense will need work. Just technically, I'd like to see him work on his tackling technique. So it's probably the big nitpick when it comes to him. It's just like the dude's just got such a nose for the football, and just the instincts are so good. I'm willing to bet on it. At number 3, I have Xavier Nwankpa out of Iowa, coming in at 6'2", 215 pounds. So he is one of the bigger safeties in this class, but he is a good athlete. He's got this nice blend of speed and size, a long frame, just great size in general. Despite his size, he's also a very explosive athlete, and he's a lot more flexible than you would think. Like the hip fluidity, it's there. He's got long strides to make up a lot of ground, to cover a lot of ground, and for being a bigger safety, best believe the play strength is there with him, man. Like he's got room on his frame to add more mass, but like already he plays with such physicality. He wants to lay the boom, man, but he's got the length that if he's in the neighborhood of a ball carrier, he could throw a hand out there and trip him up. So you love that. On top of that, the process and speed is pretty darn good with him. He displays the ability to look at like multiple pass catchers and read and react quickly to where he thinks the ball is going to be, or when to pass off one of his assignments to someone else's zone or assignment. He just does a good job of that. On top of that, the versatility is really good. He had over 200 snaps deep. He had over 240 snaps in the slot. He had over 350 snaps in the box. So a guy you could truly line up wherever, and that's kind of probably his calling card. That's what's going to draw a lot of people to him. I will say he is a bit tall in his back pedal. It kind of takes away from his fluidity where he just gets too upright, and it slows him down, slows his hips down, something. I just want to see him get lower in that. He will get tunnel vision occasionally where he kind of focuses the middle of the field rather than looking to the boundary at threats potentially on the outside. And then the tackling style, again, another guy that wants to just lay the hit stick, layeth the lumber. So it's a tackling style that just lends itself to a high missed tackle rate. He was at 14.5, not a bad missed tackle rate given the play style, but you definitely want to see him become more of a sure tackler rather than going for the highlight reel hit. But I really like him. I remember going into this, I read some other other reports, because I like to get an idea of what I'm getting into before I get into the tape. And a lot of people were like saying, hey, Derwin James Light. This guy's Derwin James Light. And I could see where they came to that conclusion. I'm not there yet when it comes to like, oh yeah, Derwin James Light. But I can see how they came to that conclusion. And at number 2, I got Winston Jr. out of Penn State, coming in at 6'2", 205 pounds, formerly a 4-star recruit out of the 2022 recruiting class. His father played football at James Madison, so hey, got a little bit of pedigree in the family when it comes to football. But he is a long and explosive athlete. Like, I'm just going to set the scene here. This feels like Jawan Brisker, except for way more explosive. That's where I'm at with it. And that was kind of the thing with Jaquan Brisker. I was like, that made him more of a day 2 guy rather than a back end of the first round type of player. And it was, okay, I love everything he could do underneath, but I don't know if he has that range or that speed to really be a problem as maybe a center fielder or even as a split high. And I kind of like I kind of felt like Brisker was more of going to be utilized as a box player. And hey, Brisker's been a good player in the NFL. And I'm telling you, Winston could be that and maybe a little bit more just because of, like, the dude has great straight line speed. He's very explosive. His route recognition is really good. And ironically, at his best, underneath, man, he's really good at playing underneath. And that's where a lot of the, his splash plays and coverage came. Also, really good run defender. Really, really is. Like, when coming downhill, man, he does a good job of navigating through traffic and is able to get to the ball carrier. He's been a sure missed tackler. Didn't have a missed tackle in 2023. So you love to see it. Areas I'd like to see him get better at. I would say the play strength. He's got, I don't know if it's just because he's a taller guy, taller safety, but I want to see a little bit more meat on the frame, perhaps. But it does feel like there are times where he's just not able to get through some blocks just because he doesn't have the pop. So I'd like to see him add a little bit more muscle. On top of that, he plays tall. The dude plays tall. When he comes downfield, or he'll come downhill, and he'll be coming downhill with high pads, and he'll try to tackle with high pads. It hasn't been a problem for him yet, but as good as a tackler as he is currently, he still needs to tweak the technique, because when you hit high, those guys are going low. It's gonna result in some missed tackles. So I do want to see him get a little bit lower in the pads when he does come downhill. I will say the hips are a bit stiff, kind of hampers his change of direction. And I think much of that just stems from the pad level. I think it's just he plays a little bit too high, that he's cut from a taller cloth, if you will. But love this dude. Got him as a top 20 prospect. At number 1, I got Malachi Starks out of Georgia, coming in at 6'1", 205 pounds. No one should be surprised by this. He's a former 5-star recruit out of the 2022 class. He was a first-team freshman All-American in 2022 for Georgia. He was a first-team All-SEC last season. The dude's just an elite athlete. He is twitched up, moves really well, plays with really good footwork, very smooth hips, very smooth change of direction. The guy he just moves well. He just moves exceptionally well. And on top of that, he is a ball hawk. He flows effortlessly sideline to sideline. He's able to track the ball well downfield. He tacks the ball really well when it's in the air. He had 7 pass breakups and 3 interceptions this past season. And when he's coming downhill, he kind of feels like a linebacker. Like, he reads and reacts quickly to run plays. He explodes downhill, and he's a very sure tackler. 4.8% missed tackle rate last season. Like, he just properly squares up and wraps up, and then he's got the speed to be really good in pursuit. Like, the hiccups I have with him is he's a bit of a risk taker. Like, he's willing to take chances in coverage. Like, he wants to make the big play and will sometimes get kind of get got by double moves, or he'll fall for the quarterback's eyes. And there are times where he's a bit of a deer in the headlights when it comes to receivers. Like occasionally he'll hesitate on crossing routes or on routes that kind of cross the field, and he'll find himself a step or two behind. And I think it was the Alabama game I kind of saw this at, where it was like, oh man, yeah, he'll like pause and like, wait, okay. Like I feel like I think what it is with him, it's like there'll be that times where he gets caught by a double move or something by a receiver, and then the next time it comes up, he kind of like puts on the brakes. He's like, oh, I gotta make sure this guy's going this way before I just like blow coverage, you know. But I love the dude, really good. I list him as a top 20 currently. Like he's right now like number 7 on my big board, but I haven't got to corners or wide receivers yet. I'm still putting that board together, so he might end up being a top 10 player for me. But dude's really good. I like him a lot. If I were to take him in the draft right now, I feel like he's maybe around that middle of the draft area. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about some of the guys who didn't make the list. I mentioned Rod Moore's name earlier, so let's just go ahead and talk about it. The knee injuries, bit of a red flag for me. This is the second straight season where he has dealt with a knee injury, so medicals will be kind of big with him. And also, like, fluid athlete, really high football IQ type of player, but I do think he's not like an elite level athlete. So like in a safety class like this, where I think it's just really good, I do think he kind of gets outshined by a couple of other guys. There's Hunter Wohler, who I know a lot of people are gonna love. I've seen him at the top of some people's safety rankings, and it's just, I feel like he's a box player. And for me, like, those are guys that probably at best go in the 3rd round, but are probably more like early day 3 type of players. Like, the dude is great around the line of scrimmage in the box, but let's not pretend like he is like a crazy good athlete. Like, I got questions about his range. I don't think it's all that in a bag and chips. I do feel like he's more reactive than proactive, but I get why people like him. Like, he honestly really like is really exceptionally solid around the line of scrimmage. Super good. There's Yam Bakes. Hey, I'm going to give a shout out. This is my sleeper. I don't even know if he ends up starting at Ole Miss this year, but at South Alabama, man, he's been a real problem. Not exactly the like most explosive player, and his tackling technique definitely needs some work, but he is someone who processes the game at a high level, and he has shown the ball skills at South Alabama to be a real problem. I think he's someone who could be maybe a middle of day 3 type of player. And I'm hoping he gets the shine at Ole Miss, man. I really do. I like him stepping up to the SEC. Let's talk about Shilo Sanders, man. Listen, he just has too many red flags for me. He just does. Like, some people are going to have him day 2. Some people are going to have him mid to late day 3. For me, I'm willing to let someone else take that gamble. Like, when before I get into the tape, I'll do the backgrounds on players, and there's just too much there for me. Like, first off, like, he's going to be 25 heading into his rookie season in the NFL, so he's an older prospect. But like, you get into the shoulder, I think it was a shoulder injury this past off season. Let me just make sure. Yeah, he had to get shoulder surgery this past off season for a non-football related activity, which I get it. I get that happens, and I can let that go, but it's not just that. Like, you look at the lawsuit he had. Like, when he was 15, apparently he punched or elbowed a security guard. Allegedly. Like, okay, that's worrisome. And then you have to deal with like the flash and the bravado of just him being Deion Sanders' son and that Colorado organization right now and all their NL money. And it's like, just too much. There's just too much there for me to be like, let's take a shot on this guy. Like, and you might be like, well, what about Jahdae? I'm saying I don't think Shilo is a good enough prospect for me to throw all those red flags to the wayside. I'm just saying that. Like, he's an okay athlete. He's a solid athlete, but it's nothing high end. This is a guy that he'd rather make the big hit than go for the football. Though, hey, he had that pick 6 last year against Colorado State. But outside of that, not a lot of ball skills to his name. You'd have to like go back to like 2021 Jacksonville State for you to find like actual splash plays and coverage. And with the highlight reel hits, man, this guy had what? He got flagged a couple of times last year for targeting, unnecessary roughness. Like, there's not enough there for me to be like, hey, let's draft this guy. So it's just too many red flags. I'm sorry. I just can't. Let's look at some of these guys I have classified as slots. Malaki Moore, I feel like I would include him in the corners video. I do think he's kind of just a slot corner. I say just a slot corner. It's a starting position in the NFL. But like, he's really good. So like, I'll go into depth in him when I do the corner video, whether he's in the top 10 or if he's a just missed the list type of guy. It's what I'm hearing. This is a crazy good corner class, and I'm very excited. There's Sebastian Castro, another older prospect in this class. I get why people really like him though. Another guy that's really good around the line of scrimmage, but he's a good, not great athlete. And sometimes, again, plays more reactive than proactive. So he's kind of like in that Hunter Wohler type of tier for me, where he's like early day 3. But let me just make sure there's no other guys I want to talk about here. A lot of people like Lathan Ransom. It's just, I think he's a box guy, so he falls into that early day 3 for me. Jalen Catalon, I might as well give a shout out to him. If he didn't have the injury history, he'd probably be a day 2 player. And I'm saying like day 2 player like years ago. It's just his injury history is just nuts. I mean, let's go through it. Let's just go through the injury history real quick. As you go back to his senior year of high school, had an ACL injury his freshman year. At Arkansas, he had a labrum tear. In 2020, he had a meniscus surgery. In 2021, had a shoulder injury and a broken hand. In 2022, he underwent reconstructive surgery on his shoulder. You had 2023, he missed time with a lower leg injury. So it's like every year, man. It's every year. And that sucks. Because at the end of the day, availability is your best ability. So there is that. I will give a shout out to Flip Dixon out of Rutgers. Haven't got to his tape yet. I can't wait. He was probably the last guy where before I decided to record this video, I was like, man, he's the next guy I wanted to get tape to, but I got to go over a lot of these guys, and I'm about to jump to the receiver class. So I was like, listen, let me just complete my ranking videos, and then he's going to be in that first batch of guys I get back to before the season starts. But let me know who are some of your favorite safeties in this class. If you want to check out some of my deep dive videos, hey, I'm doing those. Those are a hell of fun. Check those out. Or, hey, I've been playing NCAA. I put out my first video right here. So check that sucker out. It was a heck of a lot of fun, and I can't wait to put out more of those. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.